Lockdown's been tough. All three of them have. I can count on one hand the number of times I've been to the pub since last March. I've been nowhere near a plane in that time. My New Year's Eve consisted of karaoke with my parents, and to top it all off, Liverpool have forgotten how to play football. In this video, I'm going to share the single most important thing I do each and every day to keep me going with work and productivity despite everything going on in the big wide world. I like being one of those people who's super organised, massively productive and fully on top of things. But unfortunately, I'm also one of those people that gets distracted by the smallest thing that breaks up the monotony of lockdown. Whether that be an Amazon man at the door or just being brought a coffee by my girlfriend.
He made me this collar so that I may talk. Squirrel!
The problem with this juxtaposition is that sometimes I go through really inefficient spells when the distractions mount up, and I end up going to bed that night feeling pretty unsatisfied with what I've been able to achieve that day. It's like anything, the more you let yourself slip into the habit of something, the more it continues to happen and the more it becomes a vicious cycle of wasted time. And over the last few months, I've found that the best way to combat this issue is through spending my time in the most deliberate way I can. What I really mean by this is cutting down on the wasted minutes between productive tasks. I'm talking about things like going to the loo but just sitting there scrolling through your phone, going to make a coffee and scrolling through your phone, or just taking a quick break between two work meetings and scrolling through your phone. Okay, so the phone probably is my single largest issue, but like I said, it can be anything that wastes your time, anything that distracts you, whether that's the Amazon man or your girlfriend. Hopefully she's not watching. Now you might say, no shit, Sherlock, if I want to get more done, I should waste less time and be more productive. But it's the method for wasting less time and acting more deliberately that's the key. What I've started doing, which has really helped me, is aligning my to-do list with hour-long slots throughout the day. Now, having a to-do list is certainly better than nothing at all, but in terms of adding that extra level of structure to my day, what I've found really helpful is to allocate time slots to each task, with the key focus being getting everything ticked off before the end of the day rather than just letting unfinished tasks drift into tomorrow. Now, you can obviously try and do this inside or outside the scope of your working day or your university lectures. I try and do it for as much of the day as possible, albeit where stuff's not fully in your control, like work emergencies, you've got to be flexible to an extent, but I find more often than not it really does work. Depending on exactly how specific you want to be, you might find yourself trying to plan to the nearest half hour, or some people might work better just saying either morning, afternoon or evening. That part's just a case of whatever works for you. To add a little bit of colour to what I'm talking about, this is what a typical day of mine might look like. So I normally set my alarm for 7 in the morning, and then it takes me 10 or 15 minutes to get ready, get up and get out for a walk for about 45 minutes. That brings me to 8 o'clock. When I get back from my walk, I'm gonna get ready, get showered and start work, probably go through any emails that have come through overnight. After that, quite often, every other day or so, I'm gonna have a catch up with whichever member of the team I'm working with that day to discuss priorities and exactly where we are with the project. That might go on for half an hour, 45 minutes between that 9 and 10 o'clock slot. Between 10 and 12, I'll typically get my headphones on and try and knuckle down for some of my own sort of financial analysis, like deep nuts and bolts type work. What I've got laid out here is a review of the prior 3 years of a target business's balance sheet. After a couple of hours of being in the zone, I'm then going to sort of review everything I've done between 12 and 1 and try and pull together a list of questions that have come out of the work I've performed, with a view to then sending them back across to the seller's corporate finance advisors. Between 1 and 2, I'm going to grab a bite to eat, probably log into the data room on the project I'm currently working on, see if any new information's landed that morning that I may need to quickly process that afternoon. Between 2 and 3 today, I actually had a Microsoft Teams meeting with the management team of a new target business on a new project of ours to get a sort of business overview, a wider understanding of what exactly it is that they do and how exactly the business operates. On the back of that hour-long call, it's going to take me an hour or so to write up those notes and summarise them into some sort of structure that actually makes sense. And then for the rest of the working day, I'm going to swap back onto the project I was working on in the morning, and rather than doing deep nuts and bolts financial analysis, I'm going to move over to report writing and try and get some pages written up in relation to the balance sheet of that target business. And then at about 6 o'clock, I'm going to go out for my second batch of fresh air for the day and try and get towards my 800 active calories. 7 till 8 I typically have set aside for a little bit of personal type work, whether that be scripts for YouTube videos or investing type stuff. It can be whatever really, almost an admin type period for myself. And then unfortunately we hit 8 till 10, which today, as at the 5th of March, is the day after Liverpool lost at home to Chelsea for the 5th consecutive game. That's what my 8 till 10 slot consisted of last night, watching Liverpool be absolutely dreadful. And last night it took me an hour or so to calm down. Not much reading of a book actually happened, but I'm looking to nod off to go to sleep by about 11 o'clock to get my 8 hours in, to wake up at 7 o'clock the next morning. And that's typically how a normal day of mine would look and how it would be structured. Now, I'm obviously not able to stick to schedule minute by minute as I go throughout the course of the day, and if it hits 6 o'clock and the report that I'm working on needs a little bit more work putting in, I obviously work into the 6 till 7 slot and maybe cut my walk short or whatever. But importantly, I'll have this plan in the back of my mind, and it means that if it does hit 6:15, 6:30, I know that there's still a few more things I want to fit in that evening, and I don't waste time faffing around. I just get my shoes on and get out for a walk as quick as I can. The whole thing isn't designed to work in a regimented way, but more to just act as a rough framework to plan the day around, and I find for me it works absolutely great. Just having it at the forefront of my mind means that I tend to snap out of wasting time more quickly than I otherwise would, and it stops me eating into slots later in the day. The way I've presented this to start with is with the time slots themselves being fixed and then piecing the tasks in around this. It's just as good to start with a normal task-based to-do list and allocate rough time slots to each one. You'll soon work out if you're leaving yourself 6 hours of stuff to do in a 3-hour slot before bed, and in my experience this really focuses the mind in terms of stopping me wasting minutes, which turns into wasted hours over the course of the day. So there we have it. In my opinion, that little piece of deliberate planning makes such a difference in terms of adding structure to the whole day, and it's an exercise that probably takes about 30 seconds when you first glance at your to-do list in the morning. And I thoroughly recommend giving it a try if any of the issues I mentioned resonate with you at all. There's a nice quote that I like that Google says comes from Benjamin Franklin, and it's, "If you want something doing, ask a busy person." And I feel like this structure is something that really feeds into this sort of thinking and the importance of good time management on the whole. You can have the best intentions in the world, but I'm very much of the opinion that this pandemic has made everything much harder than it would otherwise be. But hopefully this extra level of planning, this little tweak on top of your normal routine, can bring about real benefits. It certainly has done and continues to do so for me. Please do give it a try. I'm certainly not a psychologist, but I can't see that there'd be any sort of drawbacks. There's certainly no detrimental impact to having a 1-week trial and seeing how you get on. If you've got this far, thank you so much for watching. You might like to try out this video linked around here somewhere, where I talk through 3 more productivity tips and tricks to help through this period where it feels like the world is slowly ending. Anyway, that's all from me today, guys. Stay safe and bye bye.